Just 3 hands in, we get put to the test with jiggities under the gun. I raise to 150. Terrace has ace-queen suited, under the gun +2. He calls. Jesse Sylvia wakes up with the monster in the cutoff. He's got ace-king suited and is looking to destroy me. Jesse 3-bets to 650. Jesse likes to play aggressively, but I know he won't be doing this light very often when I open from early position. He could have a hand like ace-king or better pocket pairs. 4-betting would be overplaying my hand. I call. Terrace calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's king-king-9. Great for Jesse, terrible for us. I check. Under the gun +2 checks. Jesse down bets to 550. I'm in a tough situation. If this were heads up, I'd certainly call. I doubt Jesse will be 3-betting me light and then bluff flop with multiple opponents all that often. Even if I have Jesse beat, I have to be concerned about the player behind me also having me beat.
Brad will definitely feel like he needs to continue here, as he should.
There's no right way to play jiggities, so it doesn't matter what I do.
Oh, wow. In fact, there was a right way to play jiggities, and Brad did it.
Fantastic.
We're going to have to rethink that soundboard clip because he knew the right way to play those jiggities.
Played it very well.
Definitely got to give some credit there. If I had Jackson this flop, I'd put all my money in and I'd take out my wallet and ask how much more am I allowed to put in there.
That's not an easy spot to be in, especially on stream, because folding makes you look like an absolute idiot if you're wrong. Luckily, we dodge a bullet and escape, losing only the minimum. 15 minutes later, a big pot is brewing again. There's a $100 straddle on. Boston Jimmy has ace-king offsuit on the button. He raises to 400. I'm in the big blind with my favorite hand. I'm going to be 3-betting.
Ooh, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
There's no right way to play jiggities, so it doesn't matter what I do.
Amazing. Amazing. Boston Jimmy, the ace-king offsuit, raises it up. Brad Owen 3-bets to 1.5 thousand with the pocket jacks.
See some action here.
We definitely are. Now, will Boston Jimmy decide to just smooth call, play a little post flop, or is the price of poker about to go up?
This is a very interesting hand developing. I've got pocket jacks once more against ace-king, but the dynamics are way different this time. This is a button versus big blind scenario in which ranges are going to be much wider. The opponent and I just happen to be at the top of those ranges. Boston Jimmy puts in a huge 4-bet to 5,600, leaving himself with only 3,500 behind. After seeing the 4-bet, I'm not exactly fist pumping. In fact, there's a decent chance that I'm completely smoked. Being up against ace-king is one of the best case scenarios. I only flatted Jesse's 3-bet over my early position raise with jacks. In a big blind versus button hand, I'm 5-bet jamming. Boston Jimmy makes the snap call. I'm not excited to see that. The button asks if I want to run it once or twice. Twice isn't very fun, so I say, let's go once.
Brad has declared running it once. Wow. Wow. Brad's either going to get the early double here, roughly a double, or get stacked right out of the gate. Here we go.
It's an $18,000 pot, and the flop comes queen 8-3 with 2 hearts. We fade the ace and king on the flop. The opponent has some backdoor draws though. The turn is the deuce of diamonds, immediately putting an end to the button's backdoor chances. All we need to do to win a massive pot starting out is to avoid an ace or king one more time. The river is the 8 of spades. Running it once pays off. We win an enormous pot shortly into the stream. For a hand that there's no right way to play, we're playing jiggities quite well. This one feels good, especially given how the week was going for me up to this point. I'm at the top of the leaderboard. That hasn't been the case very often for me on the Lodge streams. A few hands later, I'm first to act with deuces. I raised at 250. The graphics are slow to catch up on this one, but the hijack 3-bets is 750 with 6-5 of spades. It's something that should be done at a 30% frequency or so, with some calls and folds also mixed in. I've got a hand that's great to set mine with. I make the call. We're heads up. The flop comes 10-7-4 rainbow. I check my underpair to the board. The hijack flops a hidden open-ender and backdoor flush draw. He bets 525. Sometimes I'll just fold, but I may have the best hand. If I'm up against 2 overs, you can see that I'm actually flipping in this spot as well. Plus, if I hit a deuce, that'll often be an extremely clean and hidden out that could allow me to win a monster pot. When I'm getting good pot odds like I am here, I don't mind calling one time. I make the call to see what develops. The turn is the 9 of spades, so the hijack picks up a flush draw. I check. This board is really good for my range, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a check back. The hijack has a hand he could definitely fire away with since he picks up a straight flush draw. Instead, he slows down and checks. At this point, I know that he'll never have 2 pair or better. He basically is only going to have 1 pair hands that he checked back for pot control with, or air. He'd probably bet flush draws at some frequency, so I discount him having spades, and it's rare that he'd have them anyway. The river is extremely troublesome.
Oh my god, deuce on the river!
The deuce.
The perfect action card comes in! This is horrible for Brad.
I'm pumped up because I've made my first set on stream in 3 sessions playing it at the lodge. It's a sneaky one. I'm at least going to win a nice pot. I want to target all overpairs and top pair hands that check back turn for pot control. I overbet 4,000 to make it look like I'm trying to buy it after the opponent showed weakness on the turn. I actually overbet bluffed with ace high against the same opponent in another spot earlier on in the stream that got through. Here I get snap called, and I'm not sure what to make of it because I figure if I'm up against a flush, I'll at least get raised by ones containing the ace of spades and potentially even some lower ones. I see the 7-6 of spades, and I'm not happy. First runner quads, now runner flush when I drill a set. I've gone from being up 7,000 on the day to being stuck 5,000. Rampage opens at 300 with queen 10 suited from under the gun +1, and you have pocket kings right next to him. I flat to set the trap. Part of why I showed the previous hand with the 2 ace queens is to drive home the fact that nearly every hand is getting 3-bet. With Rampage raising as the first player to act, I'm concerned that it might set off alarm bells if I immediately 3-bet. I might as well just play my hand face up at that point. For deception purposes, I like to sprinkle in some calls with aces and kings, especially if there are aggressive opponents behind me. We're fortunate that Jesse wakes up with jiggities on the button. He can mix in calls, but he 3-bets at 1,500. Rampage folds. Not only does my trap work out, there's another dynamic at play that benefits us greatly. Jesse has had aces several times a session, as well as some other strong hands like ace-king offsuit, mixed in with the 10-9 suited 3-bet, making him appear to be super aggressive when really, he's just had it a huge majority of the time. He could think that I think he's picking on me and would potentially be making a move on him when I back 4-bet to 5,000. The graphics show that I have 3,700 behind, but I have around 4,500 or so on top of my 4-bet. Jesse won't be calling. He's either going to fold or jam. With how I played this hand and how Jesse thinks that I may be perceiving him, it'll be tough for him to get away. Jesse puts in the 5-bet shove, our 4-bet size, and kind of handcuffed him. We make the call. Jesse's a buddy of mine. I turn over the kings first, imagining that they're best. Jesse shows that he has jacks for some extra run good, and because Jesse's a class act, he hits me with a slightly premature. The dealer asks if we want to go once or twice. I definitely don't want to run the risk of this chopping. I want to either get unstuck or be put out of my misery for the day. I say, let's just go once. If you get it, you get it. An $18,000 pot is at stake. If we can hold, we'll be out of the $6,000 hole we're in, and we'll actually be up a few thousand. The flop comes 9-5-3 with 2 clubs. It's great for us since we even have the backdoor flush draw. The turn is another 9. Jesse's drawing dead to one of the last 2 jacks in the deck. The river is the 10 of spades, securing us the victory. I'm glad to get the win, but would have preferred to have gotten it against someone else at the table. Jesse's one of the nicest guys in poker. He lives right next to me in Las Vegas, and he throws some great summertime barbecues. Pick up ace-king offsuit under the gun +2. Rampage is first to act and raises to 300 from under the gun +1. I employ the same strategy that I used earlier with pocket kings. I call with plans to put in the back 4-bet. No 3-bets behind me this time. I should probably only use that trick once maximum. The big blind calls. The under the gun straddler also calls. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It's king a3 rainbow. It's about as dry as it gets. The opponent's check. No one's getting anything for free. I bet 600. The big blind and under the gun straddler fold. Rampage calls. We're heads up. The turn is the 7 of spades. The opponent checks. My hand is under repped. I bet 1,300. Ethan's thinking about it. Ultimately he folds. I show him that we had the winner. This pot gets us close. We're still not all the way unstuck, so we're never, ever leaving. We pick up pocket queens in the cutoff. This is a hand that's included in a lot of pre-flop charts as a raise from this position. I make it 300. The button is a new player. He welcomes himself to the table by 3-betting me to 1,000. I should actually be 4-betting. I call for 700 more. We're heads up out of position and the flop comes queen jack 10 rainbow. We've got top set. This is a very interesting flop because the button is supposed to have 3-bet us pre-flop with 3 different straight combinations including ace king, king 9, and 9-8. He's also going to have hands that we'll have in terrible shape, like sets of jacks and 10s, and also pocket aces. Kings isn't doing too terrible against us, it's just a 2-to-1 dog. I check. The opponent is a good player, knows that this is a great flop for his range. He bets 700. I have a decision to make. One option is to raise. I might be able to get calls or raises from sets or overpairs. The problem with this is that I could be up against a straight or a bluff. If I'm up against a straight, I don't want to put more money in the pot. If I'm up against a bluff, I won't be winning any additional money by raising. I'll just be denying equity, and the opponent may not even have that much, or any equity in some cases. I call. This is still risky because we don't want to see 4 to the straight on board. The turn is the 6 of clubs. That's a good safe one. I check. Perhaps I'll go for the check raise if the button bets here. He does bet. He bets 3,000. This is definitely on the larger side. Everything is escalating extremely quickly. I can't help but think that a straight is the most likely hand that he'll have. There are 16 combos of ace-king he could have, 4 combos each of king-9 and 9-8 suited. That's a total of 24 combos. Meanwhile, there are only 6 combos of aces, 6 combos of kings, and 3 combos each of pocket jacks and pocket 10s. There's only 1 combo each of hands like queen-jack and queen-10 suited as well. I call, hoping for a paired board one time. The river is the jack of spades. We have the second nuts in a pot that's nearly $10,000. The opponent isn't going to like the jack if he has a straight, or even if he has a hand like aces or kings, especially after I called a 3-bet, a flop bet, and a huge turn bet. I don't want to check and have this get checked back. I fire for $10,000. If I get called, I'll win the biggest pot of my life, and I'll be up the most that I've ever been up in a single session before. Instead, the opponent folds, showing that he has the world's worst hand.
Deuce 7.
The opponent was bluffing us the entire way with 7 deuce. What kind of an idiot would lose over $4 grand playing that game? Don't answer that. We get completely unstuck for the session. It was a roller coaster. Now we're winning, and it's time to get the hell out after battling against some tough opponents for high stakes. There's no cash out today. I'm just coloring up chips for tomorrow's game that'll be even bigger at 100-200.